Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're going to have some fighting words. Well, I suppose not a shocker. Canelo Alvarez was the victor, beating Billy Joe Saunders. The fight was stopped in round number 8 due to Billy Joe not being able to continue. So with that being said, I'd like to read you a quote by Billy Joe Saunders. "If my two eye sockets were broken, my jaw was broken, my teeth were out, my nose was smashed, my brain was beaten, I was not stopping until I was knocked out or worse." That was Billy Joe Saunders when he watched the Daniel Dubois fight. And he had an issue, like a lot of people had an issue, with Dubois choosing to take the knee and be counted out. Too many punches to his eye. Found out he had a broken orbital bone. Well, that being said, we also found out that Billy Joe today has a broken orbital bone. However, those are the words of a man who said that he'd rather be knocked out. I have seen fighters go through worse. I've seen Floyd Mayweather break his hand. I've seen Deontay Wilder pull his bicep. I've seen fighters with broken arms or arms out the socket. Mickey Ward had a smashed eardrum when he fought Arturo Gatti, and yet he got back up and went back at it, which to this day blows my mind, because just for him to be able to see Gatti after having a broken, smashed eardrum and to keep his balance shows what type of guy he is. I'm not knocking Billy Joe for what he said in the past. I'm not really even knocking him for, not continuing. But if you're going to have that type of view on things, then you need to stick to what you say. That's all I'm saying. Let me just go through the fight really quick. So the fight did not go as I planned. I mean, I already made the videos and I said what would be Billy Joe Saunders' key to success. Contrary to what people think, I'm not some big Billy Joe fanboy or anything like that. I just want to see people get a fair shake. And we already know who Canelo is and how great he is. It's just I wanted to see Billy Joe get his fair shake and get the recognition and the respect that he deserves. All right, with that being said, there were two things that I think Billy Joe had just for his advantage during this fight, or for the fight. One would be the big ring. He cried about it all week long. I want a bigger ring, 24 feet. They end up agreeing on 22 feet. That makes sense if you're going to be mobile and you're going to use the ring, if you're going to use your feet. If you're not going to use your feet, it makes no difference. I don't know for the life of me whose game plan it was for Billy Joe Saunders to stand in front of Canelo. And then for him to fight low. He didn't fight high, he fought low. I really don't know where that was coming from. And then he couldn't stop his natural tendency to fight with his hands down. So you took away all of your advantages. You wanted a bigger ring, but you didn't utilize the fact that you had a bigger ring. You have longer arms, yet you chose to fight toe-to-toe, which again just makes no sense. Canelo was catching him with looping hooks. That means they were really close. So you took away your two biggest advantages, just right there. They're gone. And for some reason, as the fight progresses, no one says, "Hey, Billy Joe, why don't you switch back up and do what you do best? Why don't you use all this space around you? Why don't you stick that jab out there and keep it out there?" Which is the one thing he did well in the beginning of the fight. He had a solid jab. Or just let me say this, he had a busy jab, which was important. You can see that it kind of gave Canelo, I'm not going to say it gave him problems. Canelo's seen jabs. I mean, it's nothing new. He also fought Triple G twice. So it's nothing new for him to see a jab. But he was very creative with how he was utilizing his jab. And like I said, he did keep him busy with it. He definitely had something to think about. And again, I said Billy Joe had enough punching power to where Canelo just wasn't going to run up on him And he didn't do that until later. But he did have some spots, but everything depended on his jab. There was one sequence of jabs where he followed up with a triple jab and then an overhand right. And he caught Canelo. And I believe he caught Canelo with like 2 of the jabs as well. So he had a few moments. The problem with that was he just had moments. He never, out of the 8 rounds, I could probably give him 2. You can make an argument for 3, but because of those moments, they weren't sustained moments. I don't feel like he took full advantage of his moments. If he would have done something like a triple jab and an overhand and then circled around, well, that would have been one thing. But he didn't. He stayed there. If you're going to stay there, then it makes the counterpuncher's job a lot easier. Canelo's a counterpuncher. Not to mention, he's learning how to read you now. So yeah, you know, when you're dealing with, when you have a counterpuncher, they could very well give up 1 or 2, maybe even 3 rounds. Because they got to figure you out. They got to figure out your timing, the distance, just all these little minor things. Once they compute all that, they switch it on and it's go time. If you notice, if you go back to any of Floyd Mayweather's fights, he typically loses the first 2 rounds. That's just because he's gathering the data, and then later he'll work everything out. Canelo literally did the same thing. But Billy Joe fighting out of what he normally fights out of did not help. You're normally a very mobile fighter. You're not a flat-footed fighter. You're also not an aggressive fighter. He's not an aggressive fighter. He doesn't have a ton of knockouts. He's not an aggressive fighter. So I don't understand the whole standing in front of him. That to me made no sense. You know, and I thought to myself, this is going to be an early night if he's going to choose to fight like this. And then again, just sometimes we are who we are. He starts dropping his hands. I don't know. Congrats to Canelo. Viva la Mexico. That's all I can say. Caleb Planet's next, and I look forward to that. And I will be making a video about that soon. But you tell me what you think down below, and as always, like and subscribe.